Go anywhere, do anything. It's a colloquialism that up until a few months ago I did not know existed, or that it was used so much. Maybe it's a term that is more popular in the United States, but it's something that has gained a lot of traction in the watch community. And these words, they have really taken my interest, and I think they resonate with you too. Subconsciously, I believe that many of us aspire to own that one watch that does it all. And I have a firm belief that some of the best watches in the world are complete in themselves. Some of the best watches, they don't require any kind of substantiation about their hierarchy, where they stay. They don't need to be justified, they just are. And even looking at my small collection, for years, I think subconsciously this has been a part of my ethos. At least 4 of the watches I own, they feel complete. But just think about that definition. Go anywhere, do anything. It's a very specific genre. It's become one of the hottest topics of conversation, and in fact it can be interpreted as something that's both extremely vague but also vast. And I think that's what makes it so cool. And maybe that's why we get so much enjoyment talking about it, because our interpretations are different. So what makes the perfect go anywhere, do anything watch? And maybe we all have our own opinions. But there are definitely some attributes that we can agree with. Most importantly, something that's versatile. Versatility is the name of the game. A watch that can be dressed up, dressed down, just as appropriate on a night out as it is when you're hiking in the wilderness. Even then, it's difficult to rope everyone into that category because not everyone goes out at night and not everyone hikes. But you know what I mean. So versatility says that the watch needs to be good across many different disciplines. I guess that's a start. And with that as a baseline, we can start opening up to pieces that fall into this sort of niche. As the saying goes, show, don't tell. So instead of just talking about the various bullet points and getting really philosophical and boring, I'm going to weave 10 watches into this video that I believe are great examples that exemplify the go anywhere, do anything aesthetic. All of different price points, but in that same category of watches that have that underlying definition in there somewhere. I've started with the Zin 556. Simple, not complex. I think an important part of the go anywhere, do anything philosophy is the watch needs to be incredibly simple. It doesn't draw any attention to itself, and I believe that this is probably the number one in that region. Everything from its lack of polish on its surfaces to its legibility, streamlined in nature that doesn't have any superfluous text on its dial. I believe an example like the 556 really captures that aesthetic well, and being a German-made watch, all the better. Next is the Seiko Alpinist, and the second law to my go anywhere, do anything philosophy. It's a watch that's not highly priced and it's relatively low cost. This is open to interpretation. We all spend different amounts on watches. But I believe it also encompasses this sort of watch, this sort of lifestyle, as a piece that you're not so worried about getting damaged. It's a piece that's relatively inexpensive compared to other watches, which allows you to be a lot more adventurous with it. I believe a lot of the time with the watches that we own, we don't necessarily stretch them to their full potential. We try very hard to keep them in great condition. But I don't think that really applies to the go anywhere, do anything lifestyle. Another good example is the Nomos Club. And the third law, sports oriented. I think in line with everything that's been covered so far is that these watches need to be waterproof. At least to 100 meters, and that falls into the sports genre very well. And this watch in particular, I think, exemplifies so many characteristics that helps define the go anywhere, do anything lifestyle. Simple, non-cluttered, not extremely highly priced, whether you're traveling overseas somewhere, doing a long road trip, or jumping into a swimming pool. There is nothing about this watch that says it's inappropriate for any of these situations. The Hamilton Khaki, and the fourth law, Understated. Simply a watch that doesn't draw attention to itself. A watch that has all of the above attributes, but also under the radar. And I think the field watch genre as it is makes for such a great example in this family of watches. Not only being military inspired, which has understatedness, personified, but is also regimental, simple, clean, legible. Most importantly, it gets the job done without drawing any attention. Field watches, they are a go-to. The Longines Spirit. And the fifth rule, versatile. To explore that further, that it needs to adapt to the environment it's placed in, I think the Longines Spirit collection does it so well. Building on the similar style, a military-inspired dial, and leaning towards an area that's slightly more formal instead of focusing solely on utility and function. These pieces do such brilliant work to bring that home. The Tudor Black Bay. And no, not the dive watch, the simple time only. The next rule is I think the watch needs to be robust, built like a tank. It can take all of the hard knocks but keep on going. In fact, looks even better with a bit of wear and tear. I think Tudors of this kind exemplify it so well because they have been built to be tools. And they're picking up where classic Rolex left off. Watches that do have touches of elegance but can still be put through their paces and look better for it. So the go anywhere, do anything watch, it needs to look great, it needs to perform well, but it also needs to be strong and be able to put up with a lot of nonsense. The IWC Spitfire, or the Mark series, and the next rule, strap changes. Go anywhere, do anything watches need to adapt to the environments they arrive in, so they need to be able to change straps just as well. Whether it's leather, rubber, nylon, or stainless steel, these watches need to look and perform great in any of them. And the more straps, the merrier. It's one of my main philosophies in life is that if you're tired of a watch, buy a better strap for it. And I guarantee it'll change your perspective. Now, as we know, the IWC range of pieces, they're vast, very broad, so many different pieces to choose from. But I think many of us agree they adopt the go anywhere, do anything style very well. And the added date complication is yet another bonus. As much as the watch needs to be simple, it's all the more practical knowing the date on a day-to-day basis. These watches absolutely meet the brief and the requirement. I would say that these are almost the culmination of what it means to be a go anywhere, do anything watch. The Omega Aquaterra, and the rule, a watch that manages to go from formal to informal effortlessly. The Aquaterra epitomizes a watch that is so elegant but is so sports driven. And of the many environments that it travels to, it's a piece that never seems out of place. That is a very important theme that governs go anywhere, do anything. The Rolex Oyster Perpetual, the next rule, wearable, has to have a comfortable size. So far, we haven't ventured into the idea of how the watches wear and what kind of sizes they need to be. But on the wrist, it should be a Goldilocks wearing experience. Proportions are spot on, how the bracelet tapers and how it feels to you. Comfort is such an important thing. And I won't be the first one to say that Rolex is one of the most comfortable watches you get, primarily because of the proportions of the case, the tapering to the bracelets, the general fit and feel of these watches second to none. I'm sticking solely to the Oyster Perpetual and the Explorer because once you start moving to the Datejust territory, so it starts getting a little bit more formal, a bit too formal and less utilitarian. But as with every example on the table, the subject is open to your interpretation. But wearability, how well it fits on the wrist, extremely important. And a watch that I think is the culmination to the genre, funnily enough, it's the Patek Philippe Aquanaut. Now it does go against the not highly priced, relatively low cost rule, but as a design, I think it does everything right that we want to see out of a go anywhere, do anything watch. Plain, relatively simple, easy to read, does not draw attention to itself unless you know watches. Exceptionally versatile, built to be rugged. It's also very durable and robust. All the while being able to flow between formal and informal at the same time with great wearability on the wrist, interchangeable straps. Now bear in mind, this is not how I wanted the video to go. This is not how I planned it, but the more I think about it, yeah, the Aquanaut does it. Not that I'm saying you need to go out and buy a Patek Philippe Aquanaut, but it's a watch that I think in so many ways embodies the entire ethos. So this was a relatively short video covering a handful of watches with a few basic definitions of what I think a go anywhere, do anything watch means is. And I'm sure you'll have plenty of things to add about what this means to you, what kind of watches fill this criteria, whether they need GMT bezels, dive bezels, whether a date complication is necessary or not. But what I wanted to try and bring across is the simpler the watch, the better. Some of the most boring watches are probably the best in this category. I think the whole process of trying to problem solve it, try to think through what culminates as the best do-it-all watch. This was quite a fun exercise. Like I said in the beginning of the video, it's a definition that can be seen as both extremely vast but also vague. And in there alone, there are plenty of avenues to explore. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I look forward to hearing your feedback on this theme, and I'll see you in the next one.